let's talk about conversion therapy. You know, the idea that you can electrocute gay people until they become straight? Well, the Supreme Court might reverse a ban on conversion therapy in the state of Colorado, and by extension, the whole of America. So, in this installment of Twig's Change Project, we're going to explore how the right is using the legal system to promote dangerous pseudoscience. And we are going to expose the newer, more insidious form of conversion therapy at the heart of this issue. Here we go. Before we get into the nitty-gritty research on why exactly conversion therapy is bad, I first want to give some context as to who is behind this case. According to the Alliance Defending Freedom's website, which, by the way, is the entity that is trying to unban conversion therapy in this case, Kaylee Childs is this person's name, and she is a licensed therapist and a practicing Christian. Although I will say her counseling services are mainly secular, I would not consider her a religious advisor who does this kind of thing in her own time without getting paid, which would be exempt from the Therapeutic Fraud Prevention Act. But essentially, Kaylee started off working with clients who had experienced trauma, but she has since branched out into other areas, including supporting clients experiencing issues such as addiction and personality disorders. Her clients come to her with a variety of personal goals, such as seeking freedom from sexual behaviors, such as pornography use, while others wish to become more comfortable with their biological sex. This source paints conversion therapy in a more pleasant light, but the veil easily shatters under even the most basic amount of facts and logic. Luckily for me, an old reliable source that I frequently use in my videos, the Williams Institute at UCLA, has got me covered with the evidence. Their stance on conversion therapy is as follows. Conversion therapy is practiced by some licensed professionals in the context of providing healthcare, and by some clergy or other spiritual advisors in the context of religious practice. Efforts to change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity are associated with poor mental health, including suicidality. As of June 2019, 18 states, the District of Columbia, and a number of localities have banned healthcare professionals from using conversion therapy on youth. So what exactly can we conclude from this? I would argue that if we were to give Kaylee the benefit of the doubt and say that her services are not actively harmful, conversion therapy is at best a waste of time and money for the client, as numerous studies have shown that it is impossible to change someone's gender or sexual orientation to the point where it is the clear scientific consensus. If you're interested in reading more about that specific topic though, I will link my sources in the description. However, even this tamer version of conversion therapy, known as gender exploratory therapy, is still a waste of time and money for the client, as I said before, so it should be viewed as a negative, though probably not so bad that it would be considered unconstitutional, just regular old malpractice, you know. But if we go to the other side of the spectrum, we see a much darker story. Innocent children being told that they are an abomination unto God for having these woke desires, and that they must not embrace the gay or trans lifestyle.
You fuck with God or the devil, man?
God, without a doubt, without a doubt.
What did God say about homosexuality?
It's abomination, man.
All right, then.
This kind of hateful rhetoric leads to these children developing mental health problems, such as anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. So this type of conversion therapy simply cannot be classified as protected speech under the First Amendment, which I will put on screen for you guys to read here. To be clear, the First Amendment doesn't mean you can say anything you want and not have consequences, just that Congress will not pass laws keeping you from saying the harmful things in the first place. For example, there's a reason why yelling "bomb" in an airport is not considered protected speech under the First Amendment. Similarly, if a licensed therapist gives advice that directly leads children to end their own lives, that is not considered protected speech. Because one, this is a licensed professional, so it's not the same as just talking to your friend, and two, the advice from said licensed health professional can lead to children committing self-harm or worse, ending their own lives. Since we have no real idea what Kaylee's sessions are actually like, we can't just automatically assume that this kind of super harmful advice is never given. But we also can't assume that it is. So the safest thing to do in this situation is to put preventative measures in place to make sure that the harmful outcome of kids ending their own lives as a result of terrible advice from a therapist does not happen. And the way we do that has been demonstrated already by banning conversion therapy in a professional setting where a client is getting paid. But there's another part to this solution, and that lies in making sure the religious bigots in the Supreme Court can't strike this law down. And I fear that is exactly what's going to happen, and it will only cause more harm, more malpractice, and more queer children ending their own lives. There's a reason no one uses shock therapy anymore. It causes undue harm to patients and is proven that it doesn't work. Conversion therapy is the same way, only the pain isn't always visible. It manifests in more subtle ways. Your loved ones being distant and sad, not being receptive to people trying to help them, and in extreme cases, finding them lying in a pool of blood after having jumped from the roof of a 20-story building with an ominous note in the kitchen. It is my belief, and it is the consensus of the American Psychological Association, that psychological care should always be used for the betterment of the client's mental health before anything else, including any political agenda the therapist in question may have. So it truly saddens me to see a licensed therapist like Kaylee Childs fighting to keep her politics in her clinical practices. The good news, though, is that these terrible outcomes that I mentioned before are entirely preventable. And you want to know how they're preventable? By affirming LGBTQ+ people. It's really not that hard. This is not an issue of politics. This is an issue of universal humanity. Regardless of what political beliefs you may hold, I think we can all agree that causing people to end their own lives in a way that is entirely preventable is just simply wrong. So conservatives, you can disagree with LGBTQ+ people all you want. All you need to do is just not be in a same-sex relationship. But don't get in the way of people's rights just because you think you have the divine right to do so. So I urge you to leave these people alone for once in your life. It's time for conservative Christians to realize that their attempts to demonize the LGBTQ+ community are not loving or Christ-like at all, and that it is time for all of us to move on from our hate and our bigotry, exchanging it for the values of love, respect for one another, and attempting to see the light in everyone's hearts. With that being said, that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, I would strongly consider leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button, as well as checking out some of my other content, because doing all those things will help my content reach more people who might be in need of it. As always, I hope you all have a great day. Peace!